I kind of compare us to Game of Thrones at this point.
I'm scared.
Well, let's think about it, right? We started this around we'll call it the dark times, the pandemic, about 2021,
Fair.
right? It's 2024. We've done unofficially 21 episodes. So we're doing like 8 episodes of the clip and vanishing for a year. 2 years. We didn't do a single episode last season.
This is true.
I don't know why we keep doing this to ourselves.
Pain.
But that was the old sauce. This is the new sauce. We dropped the Sunday. We gave ourselves more freedom. Listen, let's call it as it is. The Sunday was a little bit of an anchor.
It was
very limited. So we're trying to cover games that didn't even happen yet,
which is very hard.
Which is not easy. And by the time we would post and we would talk about how great the Rangers were going to do against formerly known as Arizona, or how bad the Islanders were going to do against pick a team. There were 9 times out of 10, because of our luck, the results were completely opposite.
And good content.
So yeah, it made for content. Not let's drop the good word.
Everyone loves the host looking like idiots.
But listen, we're the sauce now.
Mm-hmm.
We can film this 1 day a week. We can do this 2 days a week. We do it 5 days a week. We do it 10 times a week. I don't have time to do 10.
That's a lot.
We'll start with 2.
That's fair.
Then we'll start with 2 Tuesdays and Thursdays, right here on YouTube at 5:00. We're gonna do a lot of the same. Cover some league stuff. Cover the local teams. As always, give the Devils a hard time. We're gonna do some new things. We're gonna do a draft type of segment that we're going to get more into on Tuesday. As always, we're always going to remind everybody to eat their cookies and milk.
Oh, yes.
Which I cannot believe we're not going to be able to spend as much time on this, rather, as we would like to, because this is probably the best thing the Maple Leafs have done since not winning a Stanley Cup.
It's the single best marketing decision I've ever seen.
Absolutely. And, listen, you might see some stuff popping up on the TikTok, I believe that's what you call it.
I believe so.
Maybe a random vlog episode here or there. I know 2 people that might be considering going to Chicago on December 15th. Maybe we film that experience.
That could happen.
It could. It might. It also might not. Pretty close to Christmas. Didn't really put 2 and 2 together on that one.
Yeah.
But it could happen. But listen, we're going to try to bring a lot of the same and a lot new to keep content fresh and keep everybody interested in us, because we cannot take another year and a half layover.
No, definitely not.
So, with that being said, not too much going around in the league yet. I think we've had what would we say 8-9 games
roughly. Yeah.
I know the Rangers had a game last night with Pittsburgh. We'll get more into that when we move into the Ranger preview and prediction section of the episode. But I was very upset with the NHL on Tuesday. I understand what they were trying to do with the hockey triple header. I don't know about you. I, 1, did not know there was a 4:30 game.
Nope.
2, missed the entire thing. I was disappointed. That was the first. Listen, the Global Series doesn't count. Sorry,
no, it doesn't count. No, sorry.
But that was the unofficial first game of the season, and I missed the whole thing, and I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a little. They dropped the ball.
But with that being said, we also saw Utah. They took the ice for the first time in quote unquote franchise history on Tuesday night with Chicago and borderline manhandled them.
They scored on the correct net.
Yes, they scored on the correct net. They should keep doing that. That is a good way to win hockey games.
It is a good idea.
Listen, it's with Utah. It's it's very hard to give them any discredit. Listen, the new owner came in immediately out of the gate, made new trades. Utah was probably one of the more active free agency teams. I think it was. I don't even think it's been a full week yet since they paid Dylan Guenther. They gave him that very interesting 7-year deal. Seemed to pay off because he's technically got the first goal for Utah's franchise history.
Yep.
That building was booming.
Mm-hmm.
That fan base showed up, and they showed up hard. When you look at like Seattle and you look at Vegas and how those teams all showed up the same way and they showed up hard, and, it's hard to kind of say that Utah's wasn't a little more special, because when you look at the grand scheme of things, we're in October. You rewind back to April, March.
Yep.
It's been just over 6 months, just about the 6-month window. They managed to put that all together in 6 months. That is beyond wildly impressive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're going to find out in a bit, but I'm already big on them. The Coyotes weren't bad last year by any means, and now they have the added boost of being a new team. I'm expecting some good things out of them.
Listen, I know we spent a lot of time giving Arizona a hard time in our formerly known Sunday Sauce shows, but Arizona was one of those teams, and like you said, they were never bad. They were in a position where they were never able to get free agents to go there, mostly due to ownership.
They're just eating bad contracts nonstop.
They were constantly eating bad contracts. Some of the more recent ones, they would eat the Andrew Ladd contract from the Islanders. They were eating the Pavel Datsyuk contract from Detroit, which, don't get me wrong, but the Datsyuk contract by no means is a bad contract to take on, but he's got to play for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So had that worked out, could we be talking about a different Coyotes franchise? Yeah, but there was no window for it to work out. They knew he was never showing up. To an extent, it does make sense to take on a bad contract from a team and bury it if you have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
We've seen it for 2 decades now. It just works, and sometimes it's just a good business decision, especially, again, you kind of circle back to the Coyotes, the amount of draft picks they inhaled from other teams.
Oh, my God.
But I think, if I'm correct, it was either last year or 2 years ago, they had like 16 draft picks in one of the drafts.
That's absurd.
It's absurd. And listen, it pays off. Guys like Clayton Keller, guys like Cooley, they don't come around often. And the structure of that team right now, it almost makes you kind of wonder, had they went to Utah 2 years earlier and Chychrun stayed, team's probably a lot different. I'm definitely in agreement with you. I have higher hopes for Utah. They could be playoff hopes. The problem I feel with their division is the teams they got to get through to be able to do it. I find it very similar to the Metro, where you can look at the Metropolitan Division maybe more so this year with the 1 and 2 spot, and it's like, all right, one's going to the Rangers, one's going to Carolina. The other 2, including a possible wild card, are kind of toss up. It could be It could be the Devils and the Islanders. And this is in no particular order, but it could be the Devils and the Islanders. It could be the Capitals and the Devils. It could somehow be Pittsburgh in the mix, which, again, we will get into that. Their division is so who the top three are going to be. It's just which order of 1 through 3 are they going to be.
Then the rest are just fall together.
Right. And I mean, listen, is it impossible for Utah to shock everybody and finish in the top 3 in their division? Absolutely not. Cycle back to referencing other sports. Did anybody expect the Diamondbacks to be where they are last year? Here, I'll even use you as an example. I think you had a game this year as the Mets with 5 people in attendance on a losing streak. Would anybody have expected you to be in the NLCS?
No, it's funny you said that because I was going to compare them to the Mets' expectations in the offseason. You were expecting to not make the playoffs, but your ceiling, it was reasonable to think you could make the wild card, and that's exactly how I feel about Utah.
Right. I think if they miss or make the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised either way because they have the capability to logistically do both, and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I would be much more shocked if they came in last than if they made the wild card.
Yeah, I don't expect them to be at the bottom barrel anymore.
Especially with a certain some team in that division.
Well, yes, you said it. I mean, listen, let's just call it as it is. Chicago did almost nothing to improve this summer.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
And I understand, you want to build a little bit of a younger core probably around Bedard.
Yeah.
It's just it's wild to think that team is going to have they're probably going to be the Oilers of the early 2020s. Or first overall picks in 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And there's time's going to come where it's going to work. It's just going to be a while.
Well, listen, I mean, if you think about it realistically, did it not work for Edmonton? Okay, everybody knows Yakupov was a bust.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall brought them in Adam Larson, who is still a key figure of their defense.
Yep.
Who else was in there? Nugent Hopkins is still he's still a producing member of that team.
He's a good player, yeah.
Very good player. And from what you see online, you would argue that he's still probably a pretty big fan favorite.
Yeah.
And then, we'll see how that McDavid guy's career pans out.
It's up in the air. Toss up.
It's a toss up. It's a toss up if you're maybe blind and walking backwards. A couple shutouts in the league last night. I think if I remember reading something online correctly, 3 shutouts in the first week of the season on the same night tied a league record.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me, and the fact that the Maple Leafs will go down on the wrong side of that history just makes it make more sense.
Yeah, listen, Sam Montem GOAT, that's all I'm going to say.
So we had the Canadians go over the Maple Leafs 1-0 on a Cole Caulfield goal. Rangers topping the Penguins in Pittsburgh 6-0. We're going to get into that in probably a few more minutes. And then the Jets had absolutely no regards for the fact that they were playing the Western Conference champions and just proceeded to violently kick their teeth in.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Nothing. And probably the more exciting game of the night, Flames taking down the Canucks in overtime, making it a little bit more noteworthy seeing that Calgary was down 4-1 after the first period alone, let alone going into a period. Mm-hmm. 4 straight goals from Calgary helped bring them back into the fight. A late goal from JT Miller tied the game, brought them into overtime. So with that being said, the slate coming tonight, which, believe it or not, we're going to talk about games that are happening tonight.
Unheard of.
That we're actually going to, they're actually going to happen before
yeah, right?
the episode goes out. I'm sorry, they're going to happen immediately after.
Yeah.
our predictions are going to make sense for a change. We're moving up in the world.
We are.
I almost want to. I almost have some music to cue, but I don't want to get copyrighted on it. So save that for a little while. But looking at tonight, we got the Islanders with their home opener with Utah, which I should not already be nervous at the first game of the season, but I'll get into that in a few more minutes.
That's going to be a good game.
Kings Sabres, the ever so classic Canadians Bruins matchup.
Ugh.
Florida takes their first trip out to Canada this year, seeing Ottawa, the Maple Leafs, and the Red Guys from Jersey. Mm-hmm. Penguins and Red Wings, Stars, Predators, Blue Jackets, Wild, and the evening wraps up with quite possibly the least interesting hockey game of the week at 10:30, the Blues and the Sharks.
At least you get to watch, what was the first overall? Celebrini.
Well, listen, it follows the same mantra that you and I are going to follow. It's content.
It's content. It is something to watch.
It is content. So we're going to move into our Islanders and Rangers season previews and predictions. Before we do that, we want to give a special shout out, though we can't play anything yet because we are not good at technology. We're going to give a special shout out to Black Cats NYC for their new official theme song for the Sauce, Signorina. It's going to be available October 18th on any platform you can stream music from: Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, YouTube, and YouTube Music. I may have heard, for those who are not very good at listening, but very good at reading, there could be a lyric video for this coming that day as well. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're interested in any of the information the Black Cats NYC have on themselves, where they're going to be playing, when more music can come out, you can check them out at all of their social medias linked in the description of this video. Okay. So this is the fun part where we kind of get to dump on our own teams for a little bit, but also have some. So you've played already.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you go first.
And, use the term played very lightly because they played the Penguins, who are basically an AHL team with Sidney Crosby.
Fair.
It's similar to last year. Expectations are to make the cup. They need to make the cup, or else this core is going to get blown up. I think it's been circling around online a while. This is kind of Kreider, Zibanejad, their last opportunity to produce here before they have to make changes. Because how many times are they going to be able to get to Eastern Conference Finals, semifinal, and not continue? So expectations are at an all-time high. They had a good start. They beat the Penguins 6-0. 10 players had points in the game. All 4 lines scored. And I believe they were all, if not 5 out of 6, 5v5 goals. So that's a good start from last year.
I would have to agree, yes. Compared to the way things started in your first 5 games last year, that's a step in the right direction for sure.
I don't know if anyone had Sam Carrick scoring the first goal of the year for them on their bingo cards, but congratulations if you did, because here we are.
A rational human being that was not using FanDuel did not.
Yeah, I don't even think he was an option on FanDuel.
Rightfully so.
So he had him with a goal. You had Chris Kreider doing what he does, 2 goals. Jacob Trouba, the enemy of the people, with 2 assists. I'm going to be one of the people who is going to try and support Jacob Trouba. Alexi Lafreniere scored on an absolutely disgusting toe drag, which I was salivating for a good 20 minutes. So, yeah, all around, great game. Looking forward, I personally, if we're not first in the Metro, I think it's a disappointment. You have a certain somebody who is in a contract year who allegedly denied a quite girthy contract. I'll get more into that in a minute, but he's going to have a monster year. We're not going to name him yet, but apparently Scott Boras is an NHL agent now. Yeah, so now we're off until Saturday, home opener against Utah. Should be fun. Get to see my boy Clayton Keller. I will be at the game. I'm a huge Clayton Keller fan, so that'll be fun. Hopefully he loses, but I think looking at the roster, you have the first line always going to have Kreidman and Jed together. You have Riley Smith. I think he's going to complement them pretty well. Do I want someone better? Obviously, but if it meshes, then go for it. Second line, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. That is the best line in hockey. Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. I think the third line this year is going to be the difference maker. As long as Philip Hedl cannot get a concussion and Kaapo Kakko can stay healthy as well, I can see that line along with Will Cooley being really good. And then you have our fourth line with Carrick swapping out with Rempe, I assume, sometimes along with Adam Edstrom. That's a big line that people are going to be afraid of. So I as while expectations are higher than last year, I think they will meet those expectations.
Well, it's fair to listen. I preached this with the Islanders even through the fake COVID seasons. When you set the bar to a certain point, obviously the expectations are increased for the next season. I don't think your expectations of seeing the wild card, seeing the division as an unrealistic expectation. I don't see needing to go past the second round as an unrealistic expectation. I do worry for you about some of the off-ice shenanigans becoming a distraction. He who will be named in probably about a minute or two.
Yep.
Your captain basically not wanting to play anywhere else.
Yep.
Which I'm sure someone will talk him out of that eventually. For you, I would hope things like that do not become distractions. Listen, I think trading Trouba, I don't know how much that doesn't help you. That can only help.
Yeah, I mean, you know what the issue with him is a lot of people are going to bring up his play, and yeah, he had a rough playoffs, but in general, he blocks a ton of shots. He gets involved. Like he's a decent player. It's just his contract, man. Like you can't have someone like that making $8 million a year.
No, you can't. And you know, on a personal note, because we've had this conversation, I do not believe he is the cleanest player in the league. I could definitely see why people would question his play style. But if we're being kind of realistic here, how often were dumb plays like that really attempted at?
Yeah.
You know,
there's no denying he tiptoes the line, and it's gonna come down to if he's on your team, you think it's clean. If you're against him, you think it's dirty. That's kind of where it is.
I feel like he's kind of got the Wilson effect
a little bit,
where in the Capitals' eyes, he'll do no wrong, but to everybody else, if he breathes funny, he should be thrown out of the game.
Yes.
But listen, like let's call it as it is. Last year, playoffs, Carolina, flying elbow. He's very fortunate he did not make contact with that.
That was a bad one. That
was unjustifiable. Yeah. But again, when you look away from those things, he brings, in my opinion, he brings a lot to your team in the locker room and a lot to your team PR wise. I mean, it'll definitely be a loss that it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Something's got to happen. Something's got to go.
Yeah, like it's going to suck for you guys when it does happen. I know you'll listen, like every other team in the league, you're going to figure it out. It's just when you find out that there's a trade in place to send him to a place like Detroit, which would probably, if it's not the Rangers, it's probably the next best fit for him with a younger core. He could be, I wouldn't exactly call him a grizzled vet, but he could be the veteran presence, the unofficial spokesman / captain of your locker room. And he's fighting about going there. That's that's to me raises some eyebrows because if this isn't the Detroit of 5-6 years ago where they couldn't get a fan to come play for them if they wanted to. This is a Detroit team that for 2-3 seasons now constantly pushing at the front doorstep of the wild card, quite literally missing by 1 point every year.
Yeah.
Last year they missed by a point, I think maybe 2 points.
In a very tough division.
They were in it until the last day of the season. I guess we'll name him now. Your goalie. We had a brief discussion about this last night. You're a crazy person if you give him $12 million. I'll say the same thing I've said to a couple of my own Ranger fan friends. Sorry in advance for that. Because, the guy across the river, he's a Vezina finalist. They gave him $8 million. Your guy has actually won one and has made significant noise in the playoffs.
Yeah.
My bad. But listen, it's a reality that's going to have to be accepted at some point, and I don't think this is the point yet where goalies are not going to be the $6 million, $7 million play anymore. They're going to be right up there with the Panarin contracts and the Martyr contract, which is coming up this summer. And I'll throw on my tinfoil hat for that one day. It's a weird reality to swallow because we went so long as a league and as fans not seeing the cap go up that it's like the cap shoots up to, I believe it's 87.5 this year, 87.7.
Yeah, and I think it's going to go to 92.
Yes, it's going to go up to 92 next year. But you see the cap make this jump finally, and it's like these teams are like, all right, goalie, shut up.
They're gonna open their wallets immediately.
It's like, oh, all right, sign the goalie, and it's like, whoa, we're gonna sign the goalie first.
Yeah.
Especially, it becomes a much more puzzling decision in a league that does not sponsor the starter and the backup anymore. They sponsor the 1A and the 1B.
Yes.
Where, I'll use them as a perfect example. Sorokin and Varlamov. If you took Varlamov off the Islanders, 12 teams in the NHL, he's a starter today.
Yep.
So Shesterkin, he's a starter just about everywhere. The only way he's not starting if he's hurt.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely have to see how that one pans out. It's going to be an interesting story. For your sake, I'm hoping it doesn't affect you guys off the ice too much.
Yeah, I don't think it will. They're professionals. I don't think they're going to let it bother them that much. And like I said to you last night, I don't necessarily fully believe that report is accurate. I think there is a chance that because who's going to leak that? I don't think Shesterkin's camp would leak that. The Rangers definitely wouldn't leak that. So it
that's
just makes
not
you
jury.
think a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think that's jury style.
The only reason that Shesterkin's camp would leak that is if he doesn't want to stay in New York and wants other teams to know what he expects. But then if he makes it known that he doesn't want to stay in New York, why haven't we traded him yet? So it just doesn't add up to me.
Well, I feel like Shesterkin, he's not like – I can't think of a good player comparison because that's not something that really happens in hockey that much.
No, it's not.
But I feel like he's one of those people where your team is, as we just discussed, it is division-winning capability. Listen, I'll call it as it is. You're a cup contender. As much as that burns my soul, you are.
I only name about 3 teams I would say have a better chance than us. So
I would say it's Edmonton, it's Dallas, and it's a tie between Vancouver and Edmonton. What?
No, I agree with you.
Well, listen, I didn't say Pittsburgh. Yeah, even if he wants a trade, I understand the concept of not wanting to lose somebody for not. You don't want to trade somebody or you don't want to lose somebody for nothing. But are you willing to listen? I don't care how many first round picks or what players you're getting back in the deal. Are you willing to trade the possibility of a cup?
Of course, that
I
is
mean,
also
listen, we both. I think it's fair to say you definitely have some goalie depth down in Hartford. But
Dylan Garand's going to be the real deal too.
Is it goalie depth you can turn around and go, yeah, we can win with that right now?
You know what though? Like statistically speaking, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, teams that have elite goaltenders and pay them a ton of money don't win cups. With the exception of the Panthers and the Lightning. It's these goalies that are serviceable, don't make a ton of money, but you stack the team in front of them. Is what
So
wins.
I want to look into something quick while you finish your thought. So I got to use a new source now because Cap Friendly turned their back on us.
So you had to bring it up.
Well, listen, we're going to be unofficially sponsored by Puckpedia real soon. The Vegas Golden Knights, if all of the research I did in 15 seconds is right, they were the first team in the modern era to win with a player $10 million or more on their roster.
I mean, the combination of knowing who won versus and also the NHL contracts, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I don't believe McKinnon had received his deal when Colorado won.
Did no one on the Lightning make $10 million?
No.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
Stamkos was making $8 million. Hedman was making.
Kucherov wasn't it? No, yeah.
No, because if you remember when all of their contracts were handed out, the Stamkos, the Kucherovs, the Hedmans, even the Vasilevskis, those contracts were all handed out when the cap was still like $6.
They also, I think, they all took pretty
everybody
did the whole Tom Brady thing, It took team-friendly deals to stay together.
Yeah, well, they all did the Brady thing.
Which is what everyone should do.
Right now, the highest paid player on saying everybody should do it. And the highest paid players on Tampa would be Kucherov, Point, and Vasilevsky, all sitting simultaneously at an NF.
Okay.
Stamkos was making $8 million before he left. Victor Hedman is only making $7 3/4.
Wow.
That is kind of gross to think about.
Yeah, just
but remember, everybody kind of thinks, and I can understand why it's easy to forget, but everybody thinks, oh, superstar, you make a lot of money. Not always the case.
True.
This past summer, July 1st, as a matter of fact, everybody forgets, Crosby had just came off that 12-year deal he got. He was one of the last players to receive a deal before the CBA kicking in, not allowing that.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't making much base.
True.
But when you're on every poster, cup, foam finger, hot dog, caddy at the arena, jersey, T-shirt, golf ball, billboard, I don't think he was too worried. Listen, when you're doing well in life, when you go through the contacts on your phone and you can find Wayne Gretzky, that's when you know you're doing all right.
Yeah, that's a good sign. That is a very good sign.
So, you got Utah Saturday. You have Detroit Monday. Think about that. Only having to do predicting for 2 games, not 5.
Wow. A little wild.
Look at us. So how are we feeling about those 2 games? Win 2?
I think those are pretty. I'll use the term comfortable wins, but I mean, those 2 teams are going to put up a fight. But the Rangers are going to win those games. They should and need to win those games.
I'm going to say, you go 1-1. I think you take Utah because you'll be riding the momentum from tonight into your home opener. I think Detroit is just a team that has given you kind of issues historically the last year or 2. Not to say that not to say they're going to come, whack the floor. I think it'll be a close Detroit's going to sneak this out in the last 5 minutes of the game / overtime. But listen, I've seen how Rangers can start seasons before. To start the season overall 3-0 is not unrealistic. On a personal note, I don't think I'd be surprised either way.
No, I mean, you know what? And then the Rangers and Red Wings actually play in elongated home and home. They go to Detroit the following Thursday.
Whoa. We can't talk about that Thursday.
I'm not. Don't worry. I'm just mentioning that. Monday against Detroit, I think is Detroit's first game. So you have a very warm Rangers team coming in against the Red Wings playing their first game. That's why I think going to be definitely a win.
So we're gonna pivot over to that.
The boys from Elmont.
The boys from Elmont, and oh man, I could sit here for 3 hours and use a sick day doing this, but I just can't. There's a lot of things about this season that I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of things about this season that are killing me. We signed Duclair.
Yep.
We bring over Maxim Siplikov from KHL. And we retained Mike Riley, which I'm going to get into him in a minute. 3 more free agent signings than I think we've ever done since Lou got here. So we tripled the expectation of what we were expecting to get.
True.
Through the preseason, as I've told you before, the line Duclair, Horvat, and Barzal was kind of gross. They clicked very well.
Yep.
I'm definitely excited to see how that line's going to look. It's one of those lines where I could see everybody on that line Horvat, I could definitely see having 30 goals or more. I could see Duclair and Barzal also having 25, 30 goals on there. I could just as easily see them having 20.
Yeah, Barzal's not scoring 30 goals.
If Barzal scores
because of himself.
If Barzal scores 30 goals, I don't know what I would do with myself, but it would be exciting. But again, Barzal falls in that category of like we were saying before with Utah making the playoffs. He could.
Yeah.
Probably won't. But the good thing with Barzal is if he's not going to score 30 goals, 40 or 50 assists are coming with him.
Yeah, I mean, especially on that line, even if you told me he had 65 assists this year, I wouldn't be overly shocked.
Well, listen, if Barzal had, realistically speaking, 20 goals and 60 assists, I don't know if I'm complaining.
No.
Like, I could turn around and be like, oh, you hit the post there and you completely missed there. You should have had 25.
Yeah.
Am I going to sit through a season's worth of goals to do that? No, because
it's basically a point per game. I mean,
Yeah, pretty much. I could easily put them all at a point per game that year for the year. Time will tell. Obviously, the preseason and the regular season are 2 different animals.
Yeah.
But it is worth noting both times we played you were arguably their 2 best games. One of those 2 games, the Rangers played all of their starters. For whatever it's worth. I don't know a lot about Siplikov from the KHL. We don't exactly have easy access to there. From what I saw in the playoffs, he has. I see a lot of Tom Wilson in him without the goon. He's a big guy who plays size. Has a beautiful shot. Like I think he's a guy who I'm really hoping he doesn't turn into that, but he's a guy who knows how to play his size and can score 25 goals. So I am looking forward to seeing how his season's going to go. Mike Riley to me was just a no-brainer. You got him for a pocket full of nickels, and he was willing to take, I think, league minimum, if not really close to it, to come back. And listen, Mike Riley is a very serviceable defenseman. He did very well for us last year. He's had a pretty good NHL career overall. I have no complaints with him coming back whatsoever. I do have complaints with Scott still having a job. My thing, that's a very conflicting opinion for me, depending on who you want to talk to, because, I didn't blame him for a lot of what happened last year, especially when you turn around and you find out like he was being allowed to play on a broken ankle.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, he does not need to do that in January.
No,
save that for him. So when I find that out, it's kind of one of those. How do you kind of blame the guy for trying to do the right thing?
Of course, yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like, hey, you almost ruined us. Like again, I feel like that Stadium Series collapse we had with against you guys. Again, no bias aside, if Scott Mayfield's not in that lineup, I don't think we blow the game. He gave you 3 free power plays.
You're not wrong.
It is what it is. That's last season. This is this season. He's still wearing an Islander jersey. I do hope he is successful and has a good year.
Of course.
But I'm not holding my breath. I will die.
That's fair.
I think the defense is overall probably in trouble. Pelech and Pulock have definitely significantly taken a step back. Whereas Dobson and Romanov have now taken a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how much longer Pelech and Pulock are going to be serviceable members of this team. And the price that comes with them makes it a lot harder.
It's crazy, the regression of the Islanders defense. I mean, 2 years ago, they were like this impenetrable wall.
2 years ago, we had Zdeno Chara and Robin Salo. So what do you think was going to happen? The defense, the defensive core as a group has definitely taken a significant step back. It's one of those things where when you give Pelech and Pulock those contracts when they're right on the cusp of 30.
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen, dude?
Very true.
If I was a betting man, which I am, and I had to take a guess on how that D is going to play out, if Pelech or Pulock are going to go, I believe Pulock goes before Pelech does. Pelech, though he might not have the best shot in the world, almost kind of argue maybe he's not the power play quarterback he was. He's still a very solid stay-at-home D-man.
Yeah, every team needs that.
Pulock, I think, is a little bit more of a loose cannon, literally. He doesn't stay on the ice. It seems like he's constantly hurt. One of the big things on Pulock's scouting report was always that he has this monster 105-mile-an-hour slap shot.
Yeah.
Which he does, but it almost never hits the net anymore. He's either hitting the goalie square in the chest or 6 feet to his left.
Yeah. So it does good.
So, listen, who am I, right? It's probably a lot harder said, or a lot easier said than done, rather.
Yeah,
I'm in no position to be critiquing it too much, but it's one of the most noticeable factors changing in this game. Crazy to already consider thinking about the summer at this point. Seeing that the Islanders are going to be going into this summer with about between $23 and $25 million in cap space.
Wow.
It'll be interesting more so around January and February to see how everything's going to play out. You're going to have contracts expiring like Paul Mary, who I don't think they should bring back.
No reason to.
with like Nelson, who I do not think they should bring back.
Nope.
But I say those things not knowing who's going to replace them. Palmieri's replacement's a very easy one. Again, I'll save that for when I go to the store and buy some tinfoil. Well, but listen, hear me out. If you're going into the season, into the summer with $25 million and a guy like Mitch Marner is available, you're not going to try to throw the bag at him.
No, of course.
Exactly. Do I think it happens? I don't know. The Jets could win the World Series.
They could.
Well, listen. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm just going to leave it at that. But when you have guys like Nelson, Palmieri, their contracts are expiring. You're going to have Dobson and Romanov, who both are going to need to be qualified as RFAs, which is kind of terrifying. Sorokin, he's locked down till I think like infinity. And Varlamov, I believe it's this year and one more year, so next year could be his last year.
But I keep every time I hear his name, I'm like, wait, this guy still plays?
Well, it's one of those things where if you remember with Varlamov, he did get into the league kind of young.
Yeah, true.
And he is only, I want to say he's only 36 or 37. I say only, but 36. Yeah, he's 36 years old in a career that started in 2000 and year. I'm trying to find it. I want to say he might have been as early as 08.
08, 09.
Yeah, 08, 09 with the Cap. So he's put in, 08, 20. He's going into year 15 or year 16, if my math is correct.
16, yeah.
So when he was playing, so he was a rookie. We were in middle school. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And now, look at us.
And look at us. And you better hope that he's not your starter come February. You guys need a better year from your boy.
So Sorokin's already confirmed not playing tonight, which was expected.
He's hurt, right?
Yeah, he had off-season back surgery that when the Islanders got to training camp and Patrick Waugh told the media that, you clearly could tell on his face he was not supposed to say that.
Okay.
So listen, for the money he's being paid and the term you're going to have him, if he's not going to play for 2 more weeks, fine.
Yeah.
I don't need the Russian Rick DiPietro on my team. Keep him healthy, let him play. Expectations. Wild card. And like I was saying last night, I don't think the 3 seed is out of the realm of possibility. I think more realistically, this team's looking at the wild card. I see when I'm going to save that for another minute because we're going to get into But I could see this team. Like, listen, this Islander team that you saw last year somehow managed to pull a 3 seed. Most contributed to the fact that the teams playing around them for that wild card were god awful, and teams like, I'm not going to mention any names, but teams like Philly, who pulled their goalie in a tie game in the last day of the season, their playoff on the line. Interesting decision. Coming up, we have Utah tonight. We have Dallas on Saturday. We have Colorado on Monday. We immediately go out.
Tough draw.
That is brutal.
It's almost as hard as you can start the season.
It's a brutal draw, and I call it a 1-1-1 draw.
Sure.
I think we win tonight. I think we lose in overtime Saturday because we always, for whatever reason, play Dallas very tight.
Yeah, those games almost always go to overtime.
Almost always go to overtime. And I think Colorado is just weird. I don't care what Colorado's doing the last year or two or has done. We're not on their level.
No, not many teams are.
So I say 1-1 and 1 is safe.
I agree with you. I definitely, and you know, I can attest to it. Being a Stars fan, I always go when the Stars are here against the Islanders, and those games always go freaking overtime.
It's always overtime, and it's never just overtime. It's never just who's going to win the. It's like no, it is 7-7. I've been here 3 hours, and we're going to overtime. And the best part about it is it's almost never a shootout. Whoever wins that game wins with like 3 seconds left in overtime.
It's crazy, and you're right. And one team is always scores at least 5 goals every time.
Yeah. So if you're in my shoes, you're hoping the Islanders score 5 goals on Saturday. If you're in somebody else's shoes, we both know that's not happening. Moving forward, so we're going to wrap up this show with our division predictions. With our new, I guess, look here, we're trying not to do 2-hour episodes anymore. It's too much. People don't have the attention span for that anymore. So today, we're going to do the division predictions. Tuesday, we'll do individual award predictions. Maybe we can throw in a dummy cup. And we're going to move into that fantasy draft series as well as our Islander recaps and moving forward predictions. So we'll start with your division predictions because I find a couple of your choices interesting,
right? Yeah, baby. Listen, in past years, I always put so much thought, so much science, so much math. This year, I'm like, no, I'm going gut feeling. Pure gut feeling. So, you know, Metro, Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, Islanders, Jackets, Flyers, Capitals, Penguins. The top 3 are pretty set. I think depending on the order, you could flip the Rangers and Devils. I think the Hurricanes are pretty safely in the 3 seed. I am expecting the Islanders to be pretty good this year to get into that wild card spot. The Blue Jackets are going to be very motivated this year. They're not going to come close to a wild card spot, but I think they're going to be better than the Flyers, Capitals, and Penguins. At long last, this is the year of the true Penguins drop-off. An abysmal season out of Pittsburgh. Abysmal. And we're going to love it. In the Atlantic, again, the top 2 are pretty set. Panthers, Maple Leafs, in my opinion. And then the Atlantic gets really hard. That Detroit, Tampa Bay, Boston combo can kind of go any way. I have Detroit, then Tampa, and then the Bruins. I know it's only a 1-game sample. I did not like what I saw from the Bruins the other day. And the Canadiens, the Sabres, and the Senators, you can kind of go any way with the Canadiens and the Sabres. The Senators are pretty bad, but 6, 7, 8, who cares? My Eastern wild cards are the Islanders and the Lightning. I give the Islanders an advantage over the Bruins because the Islanders get to play the Blue Jackets, the Flyers, the Capitals, and the Penguins. A lot. Out of the Central, we said it before, the top 3 are set in that division, and I think you can't even flip-flop these teams. This is how it's going to happen. The Stars, the Avalanche, and the Predators. The Predators have the best offseason out of any team in the NHL. My boys, Clayton Keller and the Utah Hockey Club, coming in 4th and getting a wild card spot. And then that bottom is tough. Jets, Wild, Blues. I kind of view all of them similarly, but the Jets are a little better than the Wild and the Blues. And then the Blackhawks are going to do Blackhawks things. And finally, the Pacific was, again, a kind of tough division in the middle. The Canucks and the Oilers coming 1 and 2. Could they flip-flop? Sure, but I just have a better gut feeling about Vancouver. 3, the Kings. They're kind of low-key, kind of nasty. They're in that weird, are they good, are they not? But I lean towards good. Contrary to the Golden Knights scoring 8 goals the other night, I think they are going to drop off again a little bit, but not enough to fall out of a playoff spot. They come in 4th and get the wild card. And then you have the Kraken, the Flames, the Ducks, and the, those people from San Jose coming in 8th. The Kraken are going to be pretty decent. Them and the Golden Knights are going to fight pretty hard, but then I don't see the Flames, Ducks, and Sharks being very competitive.
So the Central was tough for me too. I kind of agreed with you, kind of straight through. Actually, by agree with you, I mean I didn't change a single thing. The only thing I could see that I'm not really willing to lock into, even though I locked into Stars, Avalanche, Predators. I believe, like you said, that division belongs to the Stars. No one's taking it from them.
Yeah.
I do think the Avalanche and the Predators can kind of go either way. If the Predators finish 2 and the Avalanche finish 3, I don't exactly know if I would fight the logic behind it. The Predators, like you said, they had a phenomenal offseason. They bring in Stamkos on I believe, what was that 4-year, $32 million deal, which makes them substantially better. UC Saros is getting better every single time he laces a skate. It's only a matter of time before he's considered one of the top 3 or top 5, if he's not already considered a top 5.
Yeah, he's already the best goalie in that division.
In that division,
him and Hellebuyck.
Him, Hellebuyck, Ottinger. Kind of got to give a little credit where it's due. Georgiev is a very good goalie in that division. That's kind of it. I mean, the Wild goaltending situation is kind of not stable. For whatever reason, Fleury is still playing. What's going to happen when he finally goes? Do you even have a true backup ready? I don't know enough about the Wild's farm system to say so. The Blues are terrible and the Blackhawks are terrible.
Yeah.
The Pacific, only thing I kind of changed, Oilers, Canucks. I think a lot of the Canucks is going to fall on Thatcher Demko and how fast / if he comes back. Listen, if Thatcher Demko doesn't make a return this season, which the last report I saw is kind of not unrealistic, should he not make a return, both of our Pacific predictions are going straight into the toilet. Because that opens the opportunity. And I'm not going to say the Canucks would miss the playoffs still, but maybe they're the wild card. Or they could fall out and the Kraken find their way in. The Ducks and Sharks couldn't find their way out of a wet paper bag.
Nope.
The Kraken, they're kind of one of those, again, they're one of those middleman teams where, like, if they make it, it's like, oh, that's cool. If they miss, it's like, yeah, figured.
Yeah.
And the Flames are just, if there was ever a definition for the word mid,
yeah,
like, they'll probably be a 500 team and they'll probably have 85 points. The problem is they're going to be chasing teams with 100 points, and the Oilers who are going to have like 100 million points. Just my thought.
And they also lost their incredible goalie.
They did lose their very, very good goalie. The Atlantic. I don't see the Atlantic going the same way I think you do. Admittedly, I think we might have given the Panthers a little bit more credit than we should have. I don't see them being able to do what they did last year again. I think everybody else in the division, for finance purposes, was able to get a lot better. Detroit, I think they're finally going to break through this year. They're going to solidify themselves into a playoff position. They're not going to be dangling around the wild card to end the season. The Maple Leafs, they're going to make it until Marner and Matthews say they don't want to play in the playoffs anymore. And I believe the Sabres also are going to finally break through that proverbial glass ceiling. And I think they're going to grab that last wild card spot. That, again, another team, they're always floating around the last week of the season 2-3 points away. I'm not sold on the Lightning. I'm not sure how much of a beating that team takes losing a guy like Stamkos.
Yeah.
Because it's different when he's injured. He's still in the locker room. He can still come down between periods and sit with the guys from the skybox. He's not there anymore, period. I think that's going to affect that team a lot more than people want to admit. selfishly speaking, I hope it does because I would like to see some new teams in the playoffs.
Of course.
But I could also very well see this being the Lightning sneak in as a wild card again. And like we have said in years past, who on this planet wants to deal with the Lightning and the wild card? Bruins, kind of cycling back to what I was saying before about the Rangers and Shesterkin and becoming a locker room distraction. I feel like the Swayman thing definitely distracted that team a lot, and it showed.
Yeah.
I think they're not going to have a collapse, so to speak, this year. I still think they're going to finish above 500. I just don't. I think they're going to – the games that they need to finish, like I could easily see them turning around and handing the Ducks and Sharks and Blackhawks games that they had no business winning because they're just playing overconfident or playing outside of their own mind.
Yeah.
Senators and Canadians, just going to leave it there. Yeah. The Metro, again, I don't think I changed much for a lot of the same things that you had in the top 3 or 4. Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, Islanders. Like I said, the Islanders are just going to be that fringe wild card team. And listen, I know we pretty much each went with the one wild card per division thing. It's not unrealistic to turn around and say the Sabres and the Lightning don't take both wild cards.
Oh, absolutely.
Which was, remember, that was almost the case last year.
Yeah.
The Capitals, I kind of wanted to leave around that 5 spot because, like we were discussing yesterday off camera, it's kind of one of those things down there. It's like no one knows what's going on. Like they're winning and they're competing, but they're also not. Like they're making trades. They're keeping a competitive team around Ovechkin. But internally, they are taking shot after shot off the chin. So, they bring in Logan Thompson, who I think, when healthy, will be a good goalie for them. But in the last 3 years, I think, they lose Backstrom.
Yep.
They lose Oshie.
Yep.
They lose all these internal pieces that are like, hey, that was a pretty important piece to lose. Probably would have been better off not losing that. Not going to get too much into the Blue Jackets yet. Obviously, there's a circumstance around it that kind of isn't appropriate to discuss when talking about standings. The Penguins are the Penguins, and their model for the last few seasons, in my opinion, has been trying to be the Yankees and always making the big trade for the hot toy, and then it never worked out. I think they're finally going to take a reality check and not even come remotely near a playoff spot. Yeah. The Flyers, I feel like, have done enough to stay a competitive team. I just don't put them as a playoff team. So this is kind of where I'm sitting with my divisions.
I would like to point out that when I sent you my divisions, you were like, the Penguins are absolutely not coming in last. You have them in 7th.
Yeah, I thought about it more. I thought about the fact that on no planet should Tristan Jarry ever be regarded to as a starting goalie because he is brutal. And that's not taking any, despite some people who I know are going to watch this later, not named you, that are going to give me a hard time for not giving the Rangers any credit for a 6-0 win. Mm-hmm. But even though I do give you credit for a dominant performance, everybody has been doing that to Tristan Jarry for like 4 years now.
Yep.
The Islanders made him look very stupid 2 separate times in the playoffs. They swept him, and then they took him out in 6 the next season.
Yep.
Or 2 seasons later. Listen, the next time we do a league-wide coverage, we'll get more into that. But he's not a starting goalie, and he is a big part of the Pittsburgh problem.
Yeah. There's really nothing to that team. You take away – yeah, sure, they have Sidney Crosby. Congratulations.
Listen, like we spoke about the other day, when Crosby, Malkin, and Letang all finally retire. Listen, Crosby signed though at a 2-year deal.
I think so.
He's going to retire after that. He's going to go. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's been around since like the 60s.
Yeah.
It's that team is going to take a much bigger beating than they think. And I can't wait because they're going to suck.
Yeah. That team is going to be a new level of abysmal.
Yeah, they're going to suck for like a solid decade.
Yeah.
But listen, it's hockey. Anything can happen in this sport.
This is true.
In this very weird game with knife shoes. Not a bad return, I don't think.
No, we're back, baby.
Yeah. I think could have done a little better. Maybe we'll change some things as the time goes.
Maybe have some audio in certain sections, but
some audio in certain sections. We definitely need to bring our intro video back. We gotta work on one of those because if you people all think that I made our last intro video, let's cue it up real quick. Human being thinks I have the talent to do that. You're sadly mistaken. I paid for that. So we're gonna have to work on one of those. Listen, we got to put out some mid content before we can put out some real good stuff.
This is true.
But we know that all of our fans will stick through with us while we work out the kinks.
Boys and ladies.
And ladies. Okay. How you feel? Good?
I feel great.
I'm not looking forward to my own game tonight.
Listen, you got other things to worry about with your Yankees, even though they won last night.
Well, listen, I got to worry about the Yankees. I got to worry about the Islanders tonight, which it's such a shame that like there's playoff baseball on tonight, and the Yankees, not saying they will, but could clinch the division series tonight, and I will be paying no mind to it because I have a hockey game tonight. Could be a worse situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, but you know what? Let's wrap up with the Mets, though.
Oh, baby,
what a season you're having!
I never thought I'd get here.
And all it took was a purple booger.
Grimace, baby.
You see that video online of him riding the 7 line?
Yeah, dude. I wish. Imagine being on that subway.
I would be terrified to be the conductor. I don't know if trains have mirrors and stuff, but you feel the train shaking and there's just a blob bouncing around. That sounds like a Michael Bay movie, honestly.
Imagine being like a tourist from somewhere in Europe. You're just on the subway trying to get to, I don't know, some dinner, and all of a sudden all these Mets fans and this giant purple dude start jumping around.
But I feel like that's the video that you have to show to people, like when you go on vacation, and it's like, oh, what's New York really like?
Yup. Just that and potholes.
This potholes and the oversized subway rats.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what you have to show.
Yeah.
So, you busy Tuesday?
I got plans,
I think I might have plans, and I think they might be with you too.
Yeah, I think so.
See you then.
See you then.
Very good. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name because I'll butcher it. What?
Nothing. You were doing so well, and then we took a break.
I was, and then we took a break. All right, you know what? I'll give it a shot for you. I'm Tyler Dell alongside Andrew Mucaria. We cannot thank you enough for joining us today for the rebirth of not the Sunday sauce, the sauce. We'll catch everybody on Tuesday.